PlayStation 5. Let me show you what's going on. So our typical ripped off fan connector, however, a DIY attempt was made to repair this, and we need to get it open and figure out if it's still repairable. So that'll be our next task. Okay, we're getting our first look at this, and I can't really tell from this angle if this can be fixed. What I'm going to have to do here is flip on my equipment and clean all this up, and we'll get a better look at what's going on underneath, and then I should be able to tell you if I can fix this or not. In order to do all that, I need to turn on my equipment, and while I turn on my equipment, let me throw up my expected temperatures for this job if we have a job to do. These temperatures are brought to you by the associate links in the description. If you go to my video description and click on one of these links and buy any of this equipment, a small portion of that purchase will go to supporting the channel. And I greatly appreciate it. It won't cost you an extra dime. For your orientation purposes, we are working on this side of the board in this area. Okay, so add some flux to this mess. We will begin by wicking. See if we can decipher what is going on under there. No, I did not do a power test. I don't want to risk putting power onto this until I know what's connected to what. Clean up, see what I can see. Couple areas for concern. I don't know if he was digging down into this or if this is just remnants of the old pad. I'm going to need to test that. I hope he wasn't digging. Okay, that's ground. That's good. This is all supposed to be ground. We're going to have to cover that up. This via right here is not attached to this circuit. This should all be the same circuit. We're going to have to cover this up. We don't want to accidentally get into that. This is a different line. See how it's isolated? This is ground. It's fine. Okay, we'll have to cover this. This is ground. This is a different isolated circuit. This is the line in which we need to save. Oh boy, and maybe this one? Interesting. It may just be this line here. What did he do here? There's a via here too. Oh, there's a whole via missing. Look at this. They definitely disconnected something. Maybe even pulled apart. Okay, customer wants to proceed. He said he ran this thing without this capacitor on there before, and it ran fine, other than the fact that it overheated because of no fan. So we'll go ahead and repair this and put a new connector on, and we'll run the trace over to that pad. First thing I need to do is apply some solder mask to this area. We definitely want to cover up that via. We definitely want to cover up this ground. I think that's about it. None of this needs to be uncovered, so we'll just cover it all up. Okay, we want to cover up this side here because this side is ground, but this side is not, and this is the line we need to restore. I think we need to restore it from this via. So there's going to be a jumper here. We don't want to short the ground. So we're going to cover up this ground up here too. We don't even want to mistakenly have those short together. I think he mistook that as the trace for this when it's actually just this little via. For the moment, I'm going to leave that via uncovered so that I can restore that trace. Though if he ran it like he said it did, without the fan connector, it may not be necessary, but I'm going to restore it anyway. Okay, that's ground, that's fine. Okay, anything else I need to cover up? I don't need the grounds over here uncovered, because this is not a ground pad. This is the line for that pad. Don't need all that here. Make for interesting pad repair over here. We're not going to have a lot of surface to solder one down. We'll make it work. And usually we do have a spot there where we can solder. That should help a little. So we're going to be soldering to that. I guess I could cover a little bit of this up so we're not so close to that trace. Don't need all that, just some of it. Okay, so that's ground, that's its own signal line, that's its own signal line. This is a jumper. We'll run a pad here, anchor, anchor. And looks like there's another part missing there. But hopefully not. Again, hopefully not critical. And it could have just been unpopulated too, I don't know. We will do what we can. We'll step aside for the first cure, then we'll come back and do scraping and prep for jumpers. Go from there. Okay, let's do some prep. Don't really need to prep this area, but we do need to prep some more solder space over here. It's gonna have to do. Might be right about there. We should be able to come up around over here. Be okay. Flux everything up. I'm using a micro pencil here. Some solder to our scraped off areas. My pad. Take advantage of that little spot in the middle, which is ground. Grab the little 20 watt to flatten these bigger ones out. Probably not going to run the jumpers until last. So that jumper and that jumper. go ahead and deal with our pads first. Let's grab some copper tape. As usual, we're not using the copper tape for its adhesive properties. We're just using it because it's a thin piece of copper. It makes a good pad. That's going to be good, but we're going to need to cover that more. I think we're still a little uncovered there. Cannot afford to have our new pad short into that line. That's the one piece of advice I would give to anyone wanting to try this is you got to learn how to read the board a little bit. You see how this light green line is tracing this out and it's isolating it from all this over here? That means this is not the same as this. And you can't scrape this off and put a pad there. Otherwise you're shorting this line to ground. And it won't work. I get all this flux off here so I can put a little more UV coating on there. And all this area goes to this pad here. Nothing to do with this. Well covered enough. It doesn't matter if we go outside the lines. Give it another cure and we're back. I hope you're getting value out of this video. Just a reminder, if you find you're not ready to tackle this, I do offer these services, both locally and mail-in. Just head over to micromage.repair, click free quote, fill out the form, and I'll get back to you personally. If you mention this video, I'll give you 10% off on your repair. Okay, I think we're cured enough to proceed, and that is well covered now. We can add some flux again. Really kind of only want it in the areas we're going to be working. And what I want to do now, dip into a little bit of this flux, is pre-tin the pad, ideally without burning anything off to the sides. Now be careful where you're pre-tinning the pad so you don't solder it to another pad. I'm speaking to myself here. We need to trim this down a little, or are we just about right? I think we're just about right. I'd like to put a little solder on that center pad. Nose ground. Okay. Okay. That'll do. Kids, we need to kind of take some care where we get it because I don't want it to block where we need to run that jumper. Right about there would be good. Let's go ahead and get some flux on there. Some solder. Pre-tin our pad. Doesn't matter if we come over a little bit in that area because we're running a jumper. It's not likely to touch. I think that'll work. I can see my via to run the jumper. Okay, need another piece. Do some precision trimming here. Try to. Flip them over. Set it in. So these three are nice and solid. They're not going anywhere, but we are going to have to cure them down. I think we're going to scrub these off and give them a good scrub. Get all the flux off and the adhesive, and then we'll worry about the jumpers. I don't want to scrub this thing with the adhesive while the jumpers are on. You're fatiguing the wire too much on the jumpers when you're doing that. So better to clean it now. Then putting this big disc ribbon right next to the fan connector is kind of a downer. Things are going to have to be pretty precise. Not mess up. Not mess up in a way where we have to remove the connector. So I hope this works. Sort of wire we want to work with here. I think this will be fine. I am now switching to my Pico pencil. We're going to want to run him a little bit long. because we're going to be soldering this to the pin after we get it on. And come down here and I'm going to burn / scrape off the enamel. Choose the via. Put it up here. You need a good joint. There we go. Don't really need to route it as we're covered on that line. So I think we'll just run it straight. Though it would help to have it a little more soldered onto there. So it might help to actually route it. So I'm going to redo it here a little bit. It's a good joint, but I'd like a little more runway. This guy does not quit interrupting me. Okay, I think we're actually soldered on the trace now. That's good. Just a little more area than just the via. Gives us a little more security. What we'll do is we'll bend it over a bit and run along, and we'll solder mask this all in place so it doesn't move. Still have one more area of concern. Let's reestablish this connection to that pad. I don't know that it's critical, but I don't know that it's not. Okay, solder it on. Now this one will be a little bit of a routing exercise. Don't know if that was entirely necessary, but we'll find out. It's a little hard to go with the jumper when you got jumpers going multiple directions. Probably be a rapid clean technology situation. By that I mean the air compressor, and there we go. We got it reasonably clean as far as flux and stuff goes. Enough that we can cure this down anyway. I may go ahead and just tack this down just so it stops moving. But the only time you'll see me use a laser, and that's just because I don't want it moving into something I don't want to make a connection with. It is enamel coated, but still. Pretty is just not going to be an option here, so put it all around our new pads. And it will act as a helping hand when we go to solder down our connector. The solder will wet, but the solder mask will not. Have we covered everything that needs to be covered? I think so. I think we're ready for another round of curing. This one we will let cure for quite a while. Lamp on. Walk away. We are well cured. Let's tin these guys. Go ahead and flux up everything else as well. We'll need flux on it when we go to solder the connector anyway. Need our fume extractor again. Plenty of solder on these. Not too much. Don't need like a mountain. Okay. Customer did manage to save his connector, so we'll just use it. I do have spares if we need them, but hopefully we will not need them. It's a tight space for this big a chisel, but I need to wet this solder so I can slide this connector in. There we go. That's where I want them to be. More flux. Ambidextrous, and solder with my other hand. There we go. Sometimes you just gotta accidentally on purpose get there. So I need to wrap this wire around this pin. I like to get a couple of wraps if I can, but I'm not too worried as long as I get a connection. feels like it's going to be uncooperative, then we'll just get one wrap and be happy. So far it's been relatively cooperative. Wow, it's just stopped 2 wraps though. And we're going to solder it on. Like so. Now we can do the other pins. Like so. And that connector is rock solid. For your orientation purposes, we're now going to work on the liquid metal located here. If you work on these consoles, these have to be dealt with every time. So just expect to have to disassemble this entirely and deal with this problem. Because if you don't, it's going to come back. Because you were working on the fan, you're going to have to warranty that. If you start hearing that squeaking sound, that's when it's getting good. You should start holding liquid metal when you start getting that. So what we're going to do is just pull from the sides here and redistribute back onto the die. It's not doing us any good over here. Generally speaking, there's enough here so you don't have to reapply new stuff. Looks good there. We need to do the heatsink side next. Get all that oxidization off first. They'll never hold the liquid metal. I don't like to use alcohol if I can get away with not using it. I don't know what effect it has on the liquid metal. So if I can just rub it out, that's better. Because again, our liquid metal being over here doesn't help us really. Be gentle about how you redistribute. If you go spraying it around, it can be a problem. Now we can put it back together and test. My goal with this is just to see if it powers on and if the fan spins. That looks like fan spin to me, kids. Excellent. I'm going to reassemble this and we'll give it a real test. Let's check and make sure everything is happy. Fan is spinning. It would help if I had HDMI hooked up. I was going with the wireless HD option. As you can see, everything is working and fan is spinning. If you got value out of this video, I think you'll get value out of this one, and I'll see you there. Until then, have a blessed day.